Hi everyone, this is Emily Leiphart here for Tailored Expressions, and in today's video I'm sharing the brand new Create and Quad's Peaceful Pines as well as the Foil at Winter Blessings sentiments. These are just a few of the amazing new products from the latest Christmas release. I was so excited to see another addition to the Create and Quad's Layering Stencils collection. This combination of products will make it easy to mass produce both holiday and winter cards for my stash. Let me start by showing you the 4 stencils. Each stencil measures 8.5 inches by 11 inches, and I'll show you later how to cut these down to their respective panels. As with all Tailored Expressions layering stencils, each stencil is labeled 1 through 4, so you know exactly which order to stencil in. You can see the final results of the patterns when the stencils are stacked together like this. There are 3 styles of trees, with each panel featuring different groupings of trees. 3 panels are for portrait cards, and 1 is for a landscape card. The new foilet panels coordinate with the previously released Winter Blessings dies. I previously showcased the stamp set last year when the Create and Quad Snowflakes layering stencils were released. You can go back and watch that video again for more inspiration. I'll be using some Deco foil with the mini Minc foil applicator for these sentiments. My color palette for these cards includes pink champagne, guava, pineapple, spearmint, and poblano pepper. I'll be using only pineapple cardstock as highlights for the cards, but you'll see both the inks and cardstock featured for the other 4 colors. I also add chocolate truffle to the mix. I start by placing a whole sheet of sugar cube cardstock on a large stencil mat, then my first stencil on top. I use a coordinating bitty blender brush with pink champagne ink and fill in some of the trees. Leaving this first stencil in place, I switch to guava ink, switch brushes, and fill in the rest of the trees. When I switched to the second stencil, I finished the large tree with guava ink. Then I switched to spearmint ink for all of the triangular trees. Leaving this second stencil in place, I add some poblano pepper ink to the bottoms of all the trees. For the third stencil, I use poblano pepper to blend the trunk of the large tree. Then I switch to chocolate truffle for the remaining trunks. I always say that the third reveal is my favorite, and I don't know why, but probably because most of the images are complete and it's when I get most excited. The fourth and final stencil features all the falling snow, and for this I want to make sure that I use as light a hand as possible, so I switch to one of the coordinating larger pastel brushes. I'm once again using spearmint ink for this. I love the softness of the snow, but I'm going to increase the wow factor by adding a layer of happy medium in iridescent glitter. I clean off the stencil and place it back on the stenciled panel. You can see all the sparkle in this paste. Using a palette knife, I scoop some of the paste and spread it across the entire stencil, making sure to flatten it as much as possible. After I remove the stencil, you can see the added sparkle and texture the paste adds to the snow. I'm going to set this aside to dry while I foil the sentiments. Tailored Expressions carries 8 colors of happy medium, and it would be fun to try a few other colors, so be sure to check those out the next time you're shopping in the web store. Now I'm going to preheat my mini Minc. I press the gold button in the center to turn it on. Then with each push I increase the temperature to the appropriate setting for uncoated heavyweight cardstock. I stop at number 4 and wait a minute while it heats up. When the red button stops flashing and turns to solid green, that means it's ready. I place the foilet panel face up in the transfer folder. I cut a piece of Silver Star Deco foil and place that face up on top of the panel. Then I feed it into the machine. Once it catches, I let go and let it do its thing. Once it stops, I remove the panel and check out the gorgeous results. This is absolutely gorgeous. I love foiling, and even plain silver packs a punch, but the added stars are just amazing and add so much depth to the letters. My next panel will feature champagne deco foil, and I repeat the process and admire the results. I thought both these foils would look great with the colors I used, but it's easy enough to prepare extra sentiments and put them aside for future cards. Next, I cut apart the sentiments so it's easier to tape the die cuts without accidentally catching the foil. Then I die cut both sets of foiled sentiments, and now they're ready to be assigned to the stenciled panels. Now I'll use my trimmer to cut 1/4 inch off all 4 sides. Then I cut in the center at 5 1/4 inches and again at exactly 4 inches. I now have 4 panels ready to be embellished further and added to card bases. They're so soft and pretty, and I love the non-traditional colors with the iridescent glitter paste. They could easily be left as is, but you know me, there has to be some kind of die-cut detail. Do you have a favorite at this point? I'm using A2 panels here to see which coordinating card base would best suit each panel. Once they've all been assigned, I use these stitched rectangle stacklets to create a border around the landscape design. Next, I use the Frame and Frame 3 die, which was the gift with purchase from June. I set that aside and use the diagonal stitch rectangle stacklets to add detail to the third panel. Finally, I trim 1/8 of an inch off each side on the fullest panel and leave it because it doesn't need anything else. I used the Gathered Stars die with pineapple cardstock and arranged 5 different sizes of tiny stars on the 4 cards. Then I used liquid glue and a jewel picker to adhere them before attaching the panels to their respective card bases. For the landscape card, I wanted to add a scalloped mat, but a vellum mat was not noticeable enough, and a silver foil mat was too bright. I decided to think on that while I assembled the other cards. I had a hard time choosing sentiments for a couple of the panels. I almost split the sentiments, 2 silver star sentiments and 2 champagne sentiments. However, I decided to go with all silver star sentiments for this batch, but only because I love it so much, and the tiny stars coordinate with the pineapple stars on the trees. The first panel is attached to a Spearmint card base. I've also die cut the sentiments from chocolate truffle cardstock to act as a shadow for the foiled layers. I used glue dots between the 2 layers, but then I used glue dots for a tiny bit of dimension to attach it to the panel while keeping the card easy to mail. It's so pretty, isn't it? For my second card, the panel is in 3 pieces. The outer border is glued directly to the Guava card base. Then I simply place the die-cut frame for spacing and use a tape runner to add the centerpiece. I remove the die-cut frame and attach foam strips before popping it back in place. Since this card already has dimension, I also add foam strips to the back of the sentiment. I just love this big tree and the continuity of the snow over that popped frame. I attach the third panel to a Poblano pepper card base, then use glue dots to attach the sentiment in the bottom right-hand corner. My last card features the most layers. Going half and half on the vellum and silver foil panel, I trimmed the vellum on a diagonal and attached the top half to the silver foil panel. I didn't have to use vellum-specific adhesive here since most of it would be covered up by the stenciled panel. I finished this card by adding the sentiment in the top left-hand corner, balancing the 2 silver elements on this card, and now all 4 cards are done. Here are all of the finished cards featuring the Create in Quads Peaceful Pines layering stencils and Foil It Winter Blessings sentiments. I look forward to seeing what you create with these. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed for more inspiration. You can find all of these products in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.